I would consider my greatest achievement to be helping to bring virtuality technology in different forms to some of the larger healthcare systems and networks. It's one thing to do fantastic laboratory research. It's another thing to start a young company working on these areas. But finally, we've been able to find some of the larger pharmaceutical companies, medical device companies, healthcare networks getting excited about the technologies. And of course, what it's all about is helping patients. So I feel very pleased when I hear that some of the products I've helped design have been used successfully to help with some of the difficult problems we have in healthcare. Well, I started working at Stanford University as a graduate student, and for me it was a wonderful place to be. It was back in the early 1980s. Silicon Valley was just getting going. Apple Computer was very new at the time, and Stanford was a very wonderful place to be developing new systems, and it's also a very, I'd say, supportive place for combining engineering with science, with computer technology. It's a university that's very good at cross-fertilization between different departments. And, of course, living in California and Palo Alto area has been wonderful, too. One of the wonderful things about the use of virtual reality technology is it helps us look at things from an objective perspective. We can change our point of view. We can take an avatar of ourselves and age progress it so we can have a dialogue with our future self. We can also have dialogue with people from the past or from people from different cultures. So I think it's a very powerful tool to help address some of the difficult problems we have in healthcare, in psychiatry, psychology, mental health, and other aspects of healthcare. One of the wonderful things that's happening in healthcare right now is that we're taking some of the technology that has been used to help us do natural language interpretation and translation, and the machine learning, artificial intelligence systems that are very good at looking for patterns and extracting information. And we've been applying that to large data sets of information. And with that, we're able to take an individual's information, their physiological signals, other information we can get about them, and build a model. And that model allows us to do predictive modeling for the individual's healthcare and the decisions we make. So instead of having a one-size-fits-all approach where we say, well, let's try this medication, see how it does, and if it doesn't work, if you're feeling worse, then we'll try something else. Now we can do, using the information we're able to collect and the analysis of the information, it really is a very powerful thing. The next wave of health and wellness systems, and also laying the foundation for better clinical care. Well, one of the wonderful things that's going on with this new wave of technology, both measurement technology and virtual reality technology, augmented reality technology, is that we can now take what previously in the field of mental health, psychiatry, psychology was very subjective measurements. We would ask someone, how are you feeling today? How did you feel last week? Or we'd ask a family member, how are they doing with the new medication or their depression or their anxiety or their post-traumatic stress. Now we have ways to come up with biomarker signals that tell us a lot more objectively about the individual's mental status. We no longer have to rely on just asking people to use their imagination to think of something that's very painful or uncomfortable or disturbing, and then try and teach them how to manage those thoughts. Now we can, in a graduated way, have the tools to teach people skills to manage anxiety, manage mood, manage reactions to sugar or alcohol or to a stressful situation. It's really quite remarkable that what these new tools are allowing us to do. If we're helping someone who has a fear of heights, for example, get over their fear of heights by teaching them cognitive skills to do that, we don't have to have a very high-resolution elevator or ledge or bridge, because they are very sensitive to the clues that evoke that fear response. We've learned in other situations too, like for stroke rehabilitation, it doesn't have to be super realistic. What it has to be is well designed. These have to be environments that give you agency, where you can move in the world instead of having the world move around you, where you can pick up things instead of having them, instead of just watching. We're getting better at adding new dimensions, better spatial sound. We now have spatial olfactory stimulation too, where we can have a library of different smells that we can call up. So we've gotten very good at creating simulations that cognitively engage the user. And it's really a matter of storytelling and really setting the right context rather than any specific precision for the environments themselves. They're expensive now, but we have head-mounted displays that have the same or better resolution than the human eye. We're good at creating better ways of getting our hands and our legs into the virtual environment, and our ears. What I think is a limitation right now is there's still some things that we're basically fooling the brain about. When we have a display close to the eyes, there's a disconnect between the vestibular system and the visual system. And that, if you don't design things very well, can show up as someone who's feeling very queasy in the environment. I think we're well over the threshold of the technology. It's really a matter of implementing it the best way. Well, there's so many different areas. I mean, for helping with autism and Asperger's, helping with depression, helping with stroke, helping with addictions, helping with cognitive aging, it's hard to say which one of those is the most important overall. I think it's going to be a matter of what's important for the individual. However, there are some problems in healthcare that we have not been able to address very easily using medications or medical devices. So I think in the field of mental health care, we are going to see rapid acceptance of where we can solve a problem that we otherwise could not solve very easily. We also can address chronic pain, teach people ways to manage the chronic pain that reduces the incidence and the discomfort of chronic pain. So I think that will be one of the areas where we see things surge and get initial acceptance, because pain is uncomfortable, and this is a powerful way to address it. But I think some of the other problems, such as helping people who have mild cognitive impairment, who are at risk maybe of developing progression into Alzheimer's disease, or to help strengthen cognitive skills, to reduce isolation. One of the reasons I am so excited about this new wave of technology working on is I think it actually can reduce costs, that it can reduce the friction of reaching underserved populations, and it can also allow us to do more effective therapies and reduce the paperwork burden on the clinicians, as long as we design for that too. I think if we aren't aware that introducing new technology can add, who's going to charge the batteries, who's going to make sure all the systems are with the current updates, we'll run into problems. But if we pay attention to the ecology of new products in healthcare, I think we can bring things out. And because the technology we're bringing out is very good at supporting telemedicine applications, I think we can reach underserved populations. And the cost of the technology doesn't have to be a burden. Right now you can get a very good VR system for a third of the cost of a smartphone. as we collect more information about an individual, start modeling that individual, we need to be super careful about protecting information and making sure that what is confidential and private stays confidential and private, and also make sure that we're not building into our data sets biases. We need to make sure we have diversity built into our data sets that we collect for diagnostic and therapeutic purposes. Now to the question of who makes this happen? I think it's got to be a joint effort. I think that we need to have the scientists, the product developers, the product distributors, which are the healthcare companies and pharmaceutical companies, and the consumers express the best way to provide new technology. And we're about to have a big surge of some very amazing systems that will help both with health and wellness, but also clinical care. But if we don't get ahead of it, it's going to be a real challenge to enforce worldwide. Well, we certainly have seen a large amount of hype about virtual reality technology in general. Really, it's been categorized in a very science fiction way, and exaggerated claims and exaggerated expectations of what it can do prematurely. I think it's inevitable that we will see some hyperbole. We will see some perhaps unintentional exaggeration, saying we can do these amazing things when we really don't know how accurate those claims are. I do think that savvy investors will pierce through that, and I also hope that our existing peer review and regulatory system will do a good job of countering that. However, keep in mind that the tech companies are moving into this arena too. Apple and Google and Meta and Microsoft, and also non-tech companies like Amazon and Walmart are all getting into healthcare in a big way. And their speed of development and their marketing tendencies may get a little bit ahead of what we really should be doing in terms of a clinical claim. So it's going to take some work. There's two big problems for bringing forward clinical virtual reality and augmented reality systems. One is the technology has been overhyped for a long time. And so there is a tendency to view it as sort of just a science fiction-y gimmick and not as a powerful tool. So we have to have people understand its value. And I think the bigger problem, though, is right now some of the developers of these products are working on one virtual reality headset, others are working on another virtual reality headset, third are working on maybe the same headsets that the other two are, but their data structures are different. So a clinician or a hospital system, if they want to bring VR into what they're doing, they don't want to have 50 different headsets to run 20 different applications that don't share the data with each other or hook into their record-keeping system. So we have a lot of work to do beyond the front end, which is dealing with the patient and the clinician, but all the back-end part of interoperability, support. One should be able to use the technology in a versatile way, so that a way of harmonizing all the different applications. We need an app store for this. Now, there are some companies that are working on this to come up with a platform that can have their applications on it, but also bring other applications on. I'm not sure who it was. I think it was Alan Kay said that the future is already here. It's just unevenly distributed. And I think that's true for what we've been talking about, that there's some centers that are early adopters, some healthcare networks, some private clinics, some clinicians that have embraced the technology and are using it as part of their standard of care. And there's other places that haven't even heard about it. I think what's going to propel it is the pharma companies and the medical device companies, which know how to distribute and support a product, are looking for ways to extend their reach, to add a digital layer on top of what they're doing. As they get involved, I think things will accelerate really fast, and that's starting to happen. So I won't say 5 years, I won't say 7 years, but I'll say soon. The pandemic has allowed many of us to work remotely, but we have a layer of technology between us and other people and our jobs, and it's sometimes a bit exhausting. And we strip away a lot of the robust parts of human communication. We lose gestures, we lose body language, we use group dynamics, all because we're putting our communication through a very small pipeline. But I think with virtual environments, we can return to the 3D. We can get away from the Cartesian plane, and we can start communicating with each other. We develop applications to help in senior care, and I've seen people who might be very uncomfortable using technology just put on the headset, be someplace else, and start doing something that's dynamic and interactive without really having to notice the technology. Well, I think that for me, one of the wonderful things about the festival is that it's a way to bridge science and storytelling together. And I think as we come up with new ways of building new technology as part of our lives that are based on science, especially with the use of immersive technologies, we now have the ability to build into what's often a difficult process of healthcare storytelling. We can have a journey as we go down our healthcare pathway with helpers along the way, and leverage some of the learnings that we have from our colleagues in the gaming and film and television and entertainment industry at large to promote adherence to these sometimes difficult clinical procedures we have to do.